Hey, welcome to Christian Men Unscripted. I'm your host, Alan Underwood. I'm here with John Harney. Seth Lazon is not here again. This guy is always on vacation. He must make good money as a pastor.
Yeah, they pay him, I think, a couple $100,000 a year. Total joke, man.
No.
Poor kid.
Yeah, no, he's not. He's just doing some family stuff.
Yeah.
It is out of town, but it's not. I don't know if it's a vacation per se. But we were supposed to call him, and I have an adapter, and I cannot find it. So I don't do these things on purpose. I really do love Seth, so I apologize.
He won't even hear this. He's fine. He's just looking for our call. Right now, he's got his phone, and he's like, them guys are supposed to call me. They said they were going to record around 12 or 12:30. He's just staring at his phone. Yeah. Kids are like in the restaurant. They're supposed to be having lunch. They're waiting on dad. He's outside.
Yep.
Oh, we're terrible, dude.
Yeah.
Dang it.
Yep.
Okay.
So the conversation today you talked about is, a lot of things going on in both our lives, a lot of things happening and distractions and just stresses, I would say, because, family stresses, work stresses, life hits you. And I had a conversation with my daughter last night about things, and, and she's struggling. I'll say this: she joined the Army. She's going to boot camp in March. There's some things that we got to work out. So she passed MEP. She's doing all that, and we'll work them out. And, I told her, I go, you got until March to figure out and to get in shape and to be able to run and to take care of your business. And God forbid if something happens, because anything's possible when it comes to the Army. I mean, especially if you're not there now. Because I was in the military. You know what I didn't know? And I told my daughter this. I joined the Navy when I was 18. My dad kind of took me to the recruiter's office. He's like, what are you going to do? You sucked at school. You don't have a future. I'm like, yeah, I guess not. I might as well join the military.
Yeah.
So I went down. I was going to join the Army, and the Army guy was out to lunch, and the Navy guy's like, come on in here.
That is so funny.
I was like, sounds great. I want to go in the aircraft carrier like Top Gun. Yeah. And a year later, I was in the middle of the Indian Ocean on an aircraft carrier thinking life sucks.
Dreams come true, dude. No, dreams come true.
But I signed up, and I had 8 months before I went to boot camp. And I didn't want to go. I was dating my wife at the time, who was my girlfriend at the time. We were 18. I was like, I don't want to leave you. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And I found out, I was talking to, if I'm on a delayed entry program, you can literally just not get on the plane, and they'll be like, okay, you didn't show up. There's no repercussions. If I would have known that, I wouldn't have went.
So maybe it's not a good thing to spread that around, because we'll get too many young folks that are scared, and then, you get, what do you call that? Cold feet. Cold feet. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. You get cold feet, and at the last minute, and yet it could have been the greatest experience of your entire life.
It did work out for me. And, I know God has a plan for us, so we're not stressed about that. But I told her life is a journey. There's going to be things that happen, and I've heard that, I think that's a saying, right? Mm-hmm. Life is a journey. Yeah. And there's going to be ups and downs and bads and goods, and you just take them. And it's easy to tell that to a 50-year-old man or somebody who's gone through life, but an 18-year-old young lady, she's like, no, this is the way it's supposed to be. And I'm like, well, whatever happens, we'll work it out and just enjoy the day, and there, what is that? What is in the Bible? Don't worry about tomorrow, because today has its own. Yeah. So I try to tell her, you can't worry about tomorrow. Just go to the gym, get in shape, do what you got to do to make it through basic training, and, you'll be fine.
Okay, so that's actually, it's funny. We were together yesterday, and I got to see your daughter this morning. And when we were together yesterday, because it was sort of a hard day, you kind of had mentioned to me, like, hey, maybe don't mention the whole Army thing, because we're kind of going back and forth, worried about a few things here and there. Yeah. And so I had to hold it in. I wanted to tell her, like, congratulations. Yeah. And it's cool because of the fact that she's rated really high. She's very intelligent.
Yeah, she's very high ASVAB.
Yeah, and so the thing is, but then all of a sudden, if you're kind of either waffling or worrying, and you have other reasons for worry.
She's definitely not waffling. She was excited to go. But
for you, I'm saying, I'm saying you, like, you're kind of waffling on the stress. Like, on the one hand, you're proud and excited. Yep. You have to admit, the other hand, then all of a sudden, though, you were super nervous, and you're like, I don't know. I don't think I want her to go. Yeah. You're a parent, dude, right? We all do that. Yep. So you're kind of discouraged. Yeah. But yet as a person of faith, that God's got it. Mm-hmm. Exactly like you said, worrying about tomorrow doesn't add a moment to your life. In fact, even, secular studies show you worry too much and you are actually costing yourself time on your life, right? Yeah. The Bible's been talking about that for thousands of years. Jesus already taught that, right? Don't worry. Give it up to God. Was that this past Sunday that I preached on patience and knowing God's got you, basically, to summarize, chilling out.
That was last week.
Exactly. Week was, and 1 Peter 5, 6, and 7, where Peter quotes Psalm 55:22, where it's like, God's got his hand upon you. It's a very personal thing. You can cast your cares on him. Mm-hmm. But you guys, I got to admit, anyone listening, by the way, when we talk about this all the time, we'll get these amazing comments, then we'll get these super rude comments from people who only hear, by the way, the quick little short. Yes, right. But here's the thing. Every one of us in life has discouraging thoughts, discouraging moments, real bad tragedies, and all these things. Because here I am, the pastor, teaching on those things. I have been teaching on, there's this Greek word, I'm going to pronounce it wrong, so you guys, you can murder me with comments or whatever, but macrothumeo in the Bible, which is basically chill out. It's a word for patience, calm down, be long-suffering, chill, because God's got it. Conceptually, what it's saying is, God's got it. But we go through these like discouraging times, dude. Like I woke up this morning, and I told you, bro, I'm like super discouraged, but you have been more worried about your daughter, but that's still a type of discouragement. Like here's something exciting to come up, but you get these projections of, oh man, what about allergy, illness, whatever, and so all of a sudden you're discouraged. And I do the same thing. I'm preaching through stuff, and then I wake up discouraged because I'm like, so and so wasn't there at church today, or I wonder if I either offended this person, or it's weird. I have to give it up to God. I know I'm wrong thinking doing that. But I think we all do that, right? At work, did I do or say something wrong? Why isn't this person talking to me right now? Stuff like that. Discouragement. It's just real, no matter what it is, right? Whatever category.
Yeah, and you know, that's the thing we go, well, I don't care what other people think. The only thing that matters is what God thinks. But that's easier said than done. We do care what people think. We want to be liked. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not like stressing over if people like me or not. But I'm also like, well, I felt like I was okay with that person. What did I say? You know? Yeah. What did I say to offend them? And so I've done that. I've put my foot in my mouth a few times where I go, those people definitely don't like me, and there's nothing I can do about that.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, so.
But it's discouraging, right? Is I had this conversation actually with a neighbor last night, came across the street, we got to talking. We've had kind of our own interesting relationship over the years, right? Well, we ended up talking for quite a while. As a matter of fact, over an hour on the porch last night. One of the things he was sharing with me was, dude, you know this guy? I won't mention the name. Not that I don't think any of my neighbors listen to this, but he names a guy, and I said, I have no idea who this guy is. Like, and he's like, this other guy, blah, blah, blah. He's naming a few people in the neighborhood who I do know, and he said, and this guy in particular does not like me. And he goes, what's weird is the first time I ever met him, he's newer in the neighborhood, and he's explaining the situation. He said, the first time I ever met him, I actually told him, hey, anything you need. Like, I've been with the HOA, blah, blah, blah. I'm here.
That's why, because he's with the HOA.
That is why, probably, right? But he says, like, I have tools. I'll help you. You need help moving stuff. He's like, John, I'm serious. I literally told him, and with another person, he happened to be with like another neighbor. Yeah. He said, like, I have a witness of another random neighbor. I told this guy, anything he needs, I will help him. Bro, a week later, he said, he stopped waving at me, stopped saying hi. I go out of my way to try to say hi, and he literally ignores me. His wife won't say hi. He's like, and I'm not kidding. I have no idea what I did. Yeah. But he's like, so it's kind of weird, right? Now his attitude is he's more just angry about it, kind of in a way. But that happens to all of us when we become discouraged as well from that kind of a thing.
Yep. I got a funny story about this, and I don't mean to offend people when I tell you this story, especially if you're a cosmetologist. Because I think my daughter was maybe newborn. My son was probably 4, my daughter. And my wife had this work friend, and his wife came over for dinner, and we sat outside, and we're talking about our kids growing up. And I remember she was very pretty, and he was there. We were probably in our 20s, 30, 34 at the time, so I wasn't as old as I am now. Anyway, we're talking about our kids, and I remember, because I don't know what a cosmetologist does. I just know that it's like a trade school. Is this
story about my wife, Dave?
No.
Because she did do that.
I know.
Okay.
I didn't know at the time. I'm just some dummy. So I go, I really want my daughter. I think she's going to do great. I just don't want her to be a cosmetologist or anything. You could just go do that online. I don't know. That's what I said. Then they left, and my wife's like, well, they're never coming back. I'm like, why? Yeah. Oh, she's a cosmetologist.
Oh, my God.
And I was like, I've never talked to them again. They never came back. Never talked to me again. I didn't know I don't even know what a cosmetologist is. It just came out of my mouth,
dude.
So no offense to any cosmetologist. I think that's great. And I know a lot of people now that make good money doing it. But at the time, I didn't think about it.
That is so funny, right? Now, okay, that'll actually kind of transition to a slightly different topic, because we can cause our own kind of discouragement. Like, it bothers me that these folks don't like me. But if you dig down, you realize, it was actually totally my fault.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. I've got my buddy, I'm just going to say it. I don't think he listens, but I'm going to share it with him maybe if I talk about him. But my buddy Mike, Mikey that I grew up with and was a cop, and awesome. Yep. This guy's like literally now one of the leading experts in the world on search and seizure. I like to brag him up. I kind of joke that his wife... It's
crazy to be the expert on that, because it's so boring.
Oh, dude. And he does, but he's amazing at it. And he manages to make it fun when he's teaching it. He teaches it to prosecutors, to attorneys, to cops. It's awesome, the whole search and seizure law stuff. But here's the thing. Wonderful guy, Christian guy. years and years ago. He's been married now for many years, and he has the most beautiful daughters, most beautiful wife. They're just a great family. When I first met his girlfriend at the time, now wife, and I've kind of said over the years, like, sometimes I'm not sure if she likes me or not, right? We do that.
Right.
Again, we just talked about this. And I talked about this at church, that you shouldn't worry like that. You just grow in your relationship in Christ. But I kind of feel like sometimes, like, I wonder, we kind of drifted apart because of kids and stuff. But then I make up my self-conscious thing, like, is it because maybe his wife just doesn't like me? I'm a very different personality than he is, but we're all like that. My wife says, babe, do you not remember the first time you ever met her? I was like, no. And she was like, you totally offended her because her name sounds, it's not Candy. I don't want to say it just because I don't want to.
It's not Candy.
It's not Candy.
Something like that, like a stripper name?
So that's what I said, whatever her name, right? By the way, I just didn't get her permission to say it, so that's only right. And it's her name, by the way. It's her legal name, beautiful name, fun name, great name,
Diamond?
Wonderful. And her name is Diamond, okay? No, but when she said it to me, I'm such an idiot. First thing I said, I was like, well, what do you do? What are you, a stripper or something? And dude, I never met her in my life, right? So that was my first impression. And here we are 30 years later. I'm like, babe, I still don't understand. I'm not sure she likes me. She's not a stripper. And she's definitely not a stripper, dude. Okay. She's educated. She's like I don't know, she might, for
strippers
sure.
Are educated. Some of
them might be. But no, she's like.
No offense to any strippers or cosmetology.
Or people named Diamond, or Candy. Cupcake, you name the,
Porsche,
all of those. I don't even
know how we know these
cinnamon.
Stripper names. I've never been to a strip club, so I don't even know.
Me neither.
Just from movies, I think.
Okay, full disclosure, I have.
I have to.
Not only when I was a young kid. As a young kid, I'll never forget going into one in Mexico. Terrible, worst experience of my life. Almost got killed. Ran out. Swear to God, ran out. I shouldn't. I'm going to preach on not swearing to God like that. By the way. That's because you should not do that. That's a bad habit.
It's a habit, yeah.
But it's a bad, and actually in James, I'm going to teach on that coming up.
Nice.
So see what I just messed up on? Mm-hmm. That I did exactly what the Bible tells me not to do. I'm sorry. Okay, so, but also, working with the drug trade and all that. Yeah, I've been in it. It's sad, actually. It's terrible. It's sad.
Yeah.
Okay.
I almost got a job at a strip club.
Well, I have friends who've worked at them for many years.
I was working at the Golden Nugget, and a buddy of mine's like, I'm opening a strip club. You want to come work for me? And I was like, yeah, great. So I went and did it. I was like, this is kind of seedy.
Seedy.
And I was like, I don't know.
It's not great.
I didn't get the job. I don't know if they didn't give me the job, but whatever. It was a blessing in disguise.
Well, here's the thing.
And my wife is not down for it either.
No. But you know what? You pray over every one of those people who work in those places because there are those who are literally doing it out of just straight greed. There are those, but that's what I'm saying. The balance is there are those who feel like they have no great examples in their lives. They have no real. And by the way, there's people who probably are well educated who do it just because of money and stuff. My point is, it can be really bad. You pray for those people and you pray they're able to come out of that.
A lot of things there that just go on that you.
There's nothing good about it.
Unfortunately, society, that's where the world is right now, where like sex sells, the OnlyFans things, the pornography, the strip clubs, and it's like, that's what the world is coming to. But I feel like there's a shift going on a little bit now. But, that was the main thing. I mean, that makes the most money in the world.
Here's the thing. This is nothing new. In fact, Rahab, the prostitute, is one of the greatest examples of a prostitute. Think of it, living on the outer walls of the city. When the spies, right, Joshua and Caleb and all the spies, they went in and she helped them and she recognized that their God, the God of the universe, Yahweh, the living God, is the God of the universe. And she became a believer in Jesus, and she's an amazing part of the history of the Bible and the history of our Savior and everything else. In time, back then, in the context at that time, she was looked down upon and judged by society and treated like a piece of property to be abused by the men at that time and then looked down upon by the women at that time, not unlike right now where we have strippers and people in the sex industry. Human trafficking is a whole nother horrific thing, but the stripper thing is not a good thing. And so, there are some that are just straight ass evil. You're going to have to edit that one out. There are some that are just straight.
This is not edited, or it's unscripted and not edited.
Well, there are some that are just straight evil. When I say it, I mean it.
No, I mean But there have a right to say that word because the way it frustrates you because there's so much evil that they perpetrate upon even people, and they victimize people in that industry. But then there are those who are so sad and just trying to get by, and they've had nothing but abuse in their life, and so they live in a life of discouragement. And they see this as possibly the only way out. So you have kind of everything is, I guess, what I'm saying. But we can't judge them because you look in history and you see someone like a Rahab who's finally
given the love of Christ, the love of the living God at the time. They knew the Messiah would come, that the Christ, the Christos, the Messiah would be coming, but they knew that God had them, and she finally saw that, was respected as a human being, and
yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean?
You even see that, like, I see women who are in the porn industry who are now just, Christians who just go out and just say, hey, I did, this is what I did. I'm not ashamed of it, but I found the Lord, and this is who I am now. Yeah. Your past doesn't define you, so especially in the eyes of the Lord, so.
For sure. And you can live a life of absolute discouragement and seedy life, and we have people in alcohol and all these. We kind of have gone into this topic, but then you're encouraged by the love of Christ, and you can come out of that. Nothing's beyond redemption.
Yeah, I mean, I was having that conversation with my daughter last night about, and I'm not going to get into everything, but I'm like, Jesus will change your outlook on life. Because you stress, you worry about things, and you don't, and you have questions, especially as a young kid, even not just my daughter, just young people in general. I see them at church, and I'm like, I don't know if this is real. And it's hard to explain. And I told my wife, I'm like, what was great that I enjoyed talking to my daughter about? I love talking about Jesus. Yeah. And just with her, with people, not just this podcast, but just in general. And I never got that based on this podcast. But just in general, like I enjoyed that conversation because it not only made her feel better, made me feel better, but what I was getting at is that there's a peace when you find that, and I don't know how to explain it. It's hard to tell a young person, especially in their teens, graduating high school, that if you don't have something that tangible that you can feel, it's hard to put faith in that. Right? Yeah. Like I don't understand when I think about the Pharisees and I think about people who walked with Jesus and saw the miracles, how you don't believe that. Right. But we as a society, all we have is our Bible, and we have our community, and we have our church. Mm-hmm. Right. And I told my daughter, I'm like, it's much harder now to have that faith because we don't have anything tangible to feel, to see, but if you think about it, we do. Yeah. We have a lot to see. Yeah. I go, you have the world to see. I mean, we were just looking at, like yesterday at church with the snow and the mountains and how beautiful it is. And then just to see the miracle of life that happens every day. People are like, I don't see any miracles. I see a miracle every day when I get up and walk, when I have a conversation here with you. There's miracles that happen daily. They might not be the people like being resurrected from the dead or anything like that, because that's not going to happen anymore. Jesus is not here to do that. Right. But eventually we will all be raised. Yeah. And I told her, I go, so read your Bible, understand what it has, and get in community, and stop looking at the internet and stop looking at these things that are not good for you, because I feel like the enemy is working every day against us and pulling us back away from him, especially when you're curious. He's like, no, don't be curious. Come back here.
You could become a threat, right? Yeah. Why would keep you off track?
Yeah, I think I rambled. I lost track of what I was trying to say.
No, you were saying how great it was to have just a personal conversation with your daughter about Jesus. That feels good. Yeah. And it's encouraging.
Yeah, and she was encouraged, and she's a young person. Like I said, the tangible thing is hard to explain, but when you open your Bible and you understand and you read that, people say you got to have a relationship. It's just a book. Well, it is a book, but once you open it and you start reading it and you start understanding and you start having that relationship, not with the book, but with the living God who wrote this book through throughout everybody, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, even the Old Testament was God breathed, right?
Absolutely.
So once you understand that, you go, oh, there is a God, because this is real. And you're probably better than I am, but I'm like, I know that people died for this. I know that men watched him come back from the dead and put their hands in the holes in his hand as he was, and they were willing to die for that. Yeah. You're not going to die for some lunatic.
Right. Like if it's a lie and you got caught. Right.
Yeah. You're like, oh, he never resurrected. We're not going to die. No, we were wrong. He was a crazy man. But they went out and they preached the world, and preached to the world. How many 1,000 years later are we right now?
Yeah, 2,000. It's 2025, 2,000 basically.
2,025 years later, we're sitting here, and I go to church on Sunday up the mountain, or I go to my church at Hope. It wouldn't be there if that didn't happen. Right. I wouldn't be having this conversation with my daughter if that didn't happen.
Isn't that funny, dude? Because what you're kind of saying is this, like, even in discouragement and stuff, you start to look around and you say, okay, God, prove you're real, or let me see whatever, the apologetic argument. Right. And yes, there's so much archaeology and history and just the Bible itself and water and all these things I like to talk about. Mm-hmm. But actually what you're saying is, but you actually see people who are just willing to die, like sinners saved by grace, who are willing to literally give up their entire life for this, which still happens. People sneaking just the Bible into countries that are, antagonistic toward Christianity and or outright brutal toward Christianity. People are still willing to die for this. That in and of itself is such a miracle, because you see people have real peace in a very real God. And so it is fun to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I've got to apologize because I have done two things during this podcast. One, I
said the A word.
I did a swear that's like swearing to God, like which I'm literally going to preach on. I'm not kidding. I have it in my notes, which is maybe that's why it's partly in my subconscious because I've been studying it so hard to not do that, taking an oath. And by the way, it's not just against taking an oath. It's invoking or bringing, something I have no authority over God into the conversation. That's, God is God. I have no authority to ever promise anything that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm going to preach on that later. So maybe that. And then the other thing is, I said the A word. First of all, we're talking quick. I meant to say something else, but it just came out. There was no taking it back.
I can edit it out, but I'm not now.
No,
we're talking about it.
Yeah, but you can still beep it. But here's the thing. One, it's because I'm human. But two, I really have. I told you I woke up this morning feeling discouraged. I'm in like a negative space today. And I hate that because I know God is a good God, and I even know I can cast my cares on Him, and I have to spend more time in prayer. And I realize it could be spiritual warfare and projections. I get that. But it's probably mostly personal frustration, issues, kind of working things out. But this is therapeutic to talk about it because we've talked about it. You've been a little bit discouraged, kind of worried about your daughter, stuff like that, going back and forth, feeling great today, kind of, I guess.
Yeah. No, yeah.
When then me, I woke up this morning not feeling good about anything, kind of just in a bad space. So I went right to the Word, like we said, right to the Word of God. I spent time in prayer, chilled out, and I actually just read the first letter of Timothy, Apostle Paul's first letter to Timothy, just to read it, kind of read through and, thinking like, man, here he is explaining to Timothy like, hey, man, this is how it needs to be. You're a young pastor. Don't be discouraged because you're a young pastor, that kind of stuff. Then I kind of thought about Philippians. The Apostle Paul was literally in prison. Now at that time, it wasn't like the hole of a prison. It was probably better than being in a hole in the ground kind of a prison. You know what I mean? He was like attached to a Roman guard or something to that effect. And actually, it sounds like he had some pretty nice preaching time with them. Mm-hmm. But I was encouraged by these guys who have lived through this, and they had a lot of discouragement, a lot of bad things they had to deal with, but they still consistently just knew of God's presence and encouraged each other is what I'm getting at. Mm-hmm. So you're an encouragement even right now, and I pray that anyone who can hear this stuff would forgive me for even doing a couple of things in one single podcast that actually bothered me that they come out. Yeah, but I'm in a place of discouragement a little bit, right? But I'm currently being encouraged.
I think, what I do sometimes, and I really tried to stop, is like when I get super mad at something, I say, gee dang it, but not gee dang it. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, Lord, I should never say that,
Yeah.
Because that's 100% wrong.
Right.
But before, I would not care. That was my vernacular when I was a police officer and everything. And, I when I was talking with my daughter last night, I was like, when I really decided to give my life to the Lord was one night, and you were part of it, where I was in the closet. I was not that kind of closet.
Get out of there.
I was just like, I have a walk-in closet. So I was like, God, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? I go to church. I do the things. I don't open my Bible, but I go to church. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. And like I tell people at church, I tell people all the time, I didn't hear an audible voice like the clouds open. They're like, Alan Underwood, you're doing everything wrong. But I got out of there and I was sitting on my bed and I was like, in my head, it was like, you're doing everything wrong. You're doing everything wrong. You think you're doing things right, but you're not.
Yeah.
He goes, and I'm telling you, this is God speaking to me. He goes, you need to get back in church. This is during COVID. You need to open your Bible and you need to get involved. And you'll see the changes in your family. And then I even heard this in the back of my head was, don't go over there and tell everybody I'm going to be a better person. Don't go over there and tell your kids you're going to do better. Stop doing that because you do it all the time.
Yeah.
That's just lip service. Mm-hmm. Just do it and you'll see the change in your family. And 5 years later, I see a big change. The relationship I have with my daughter and the relationship I have with my kids and my wife, don't get me wrong, nothing's perfect. We still have struggles. We still, we still argue. But my life I'm blessed right now. I would have never guessed I'd be in the position I'm in right now, having a podcast, helping at churches. I'm going to Thailand to serve a mission trip.
That's amazing.
You would never get me on a plane to fly to Thailand 5 years ago. I don't like flying. I don't want to go to Thailand. I don't like talking to people.
Yeah.
But now I do. I love being around people now, which I would never have said 5 years ago. And you said something yesterday at church.
Yeah.
What was it about people, your relationship with people would be better? Say it.
Yeah. Well, let me think of how I put it. But it's funny because as you're saying that, I even think that's you are an example of exactly what I shared at church the other day. Yeah. That I also, when I woke up and was discouraged, I was thinking of some personal relationships, a few other things, not just that, but church stuff. Just, man, I was yielding to projections that were negative this morning. Right. Which is evident even in the way I've talked on this podcast today. Because by the way, let me go back to the cuss word real quick. that was a little bit of also sort of PTSD. As soon as I start talking about these women being victimized, I was very intimately familiar with the drug trade, the sex trafficking trade. I've literally rescued people that were duct taped in a building kind of stuff. And I instantly get that kind of, it's
anger.
Yeah, kind of like that sheepdog kind of anger thing we've talked about with Colonel Grossman and stuff, where I want to like, right? Yeah. Okay, so that kind of came out. I'm sorry. You saying what you're saying, though, how you said God like this, it wasn't an audible voice, but you sensed God was speaking to you, which is true. Amazing, right? Right. And then you changed that you needed to not have lip service, but get directly with God. Mm-hmm. So this morning, I actually had to remind myself of what I said yesterday. And while I was praying, I just started thanking God. I laid on my living room floor this morning, very discouraged, and I had to confess, had to give that up to God, and then just start thanking Him. I just went through a list as long as I could. By the way, I was in kind of a...
Yeah, because like you said yesterday, we go through prayer, and it's like...
Just asking God all the time. Yeah, so I had to remind myself to practice what I preach. Right. So then I was thanking God. And then I laid there so long, because I was like face down on the ground. I'm not trying to be all weird, guys. I'm not being hyper-spiritual. I'm not that guy all the time, just this morning. And so... But then I even tried to lay silently for a while. And I was asking, like, God, I just want to be close to you. Because what I said in church, what you're saying, is that, and it's true, the more, I can't remember exactly how I put it. Look, I'm trying to quote myself. But basically, the closer you get to God, the more you realize the most important relationship you have.
Stop worrying about
that
people.
You've believed in Jesus, that you have a relationship with God. You can go to Him in prayer. You can read the Word. That's how God communicates primarily with us now, this inspired Word. Spend time. You can quietly meditate on those things. The closer you get to God, and the less you worry about your relationship with other people, then the better your relationships with people will be.
And that's 100% right. That's exactly the same as...
Because you have confidence because you represent Jesus, so you're confident. You're not self-conscious. What do they think? Did I hurt their feelings? It kind of goes back to how we started. Yep. We've hurt people's feelings and stuff in the past when, one, don't do that. Be better. Quit hurting people's feelings, right? I need to be better. You need to be better. But two, I can't worry about it if I'm genuinely living for my relationship with Jesus, then now I represent Him as an ambassador and I can be the catalyst for change. That's sort of what I said.
That's awesome. Yep.
But it's true. We all need to be better at that, by the way. I for sure do.
I know what I try to do. I try to be funny too much, and then sometimes I put my foot in my mouth. And I know you do that too.
Yeah, I guess that's the problem, right? We think we're comedians, and we're just terrible.
We're not. We're terrible.
You make me laugh a lot, if I'm honest, though. But anyway, bro, I don't know. What do you think? We wrap it up on a note like that?
That was a good one.
All right. Well, I do think, man, apologies for anything that's offensive that any of us said. Cosmetologists, strippers, funny names, stripper names, dropping the A word, swearing that we shouldn't, make oaths so we shouldn't. Apologies for all those things.
Apology to whoever came over our house 20 years ago. I apologize. I'm not a bad person.
Never seen them since, man. Pray for those people. But just get closer to God, and you'll see as you get closer to God, you can do better with people, because then you just love on people like you're supposed to. Forgive people like you're supposed to. Yep. Be kind, be loving, be compassionate, stand for truth, all of those things. Be blessed. Yep.